Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bible class. Hope everybody's having a good week. Before I start class, I guess I should announce that yes, we've been quarantined for 2 weeks, and services will resume on Sunday. Let's see, what's the date today? It is the 9th today, so I can't count. 13th, I think. Is that right? Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10th, 11th, 12th. Yeah, the 13th. So Sunday the 13th, we will be resuming services at the building instead of quarantine and everybody staying home, and that's going to be nice. But, until then, I guess you just have Bible class. All right, we're going to be studying from 1 John chapter 4. And we're going to look at 17 and 18 today. 1 John 4, 17 and 18. It reads, "Herein is our love made perfect, because that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. Because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love." So we're talking about boldness, confidence, fear, and how our love and our relationship with God overcomes fear. Herein is our love made perfect. So 17 and 18 depend on what that herein is pointing to. And if you look up here, no man hath seen God at any time. If we love one another, God dwells in us, and his love is perfected in us. So we have that phrase again, love perfected in us, and our love is made perfect. The literal way of saying that is the love in us is made perfect. I would take that to be the same thing as whatever it is. It's talking about how well, it's not talking, I don't think it's talking in this passage here about God's love for us. Rather, see, since it's talking about perfect love here, and then it says perfect love casts out fear. So whose love is that? Is that God's love, or is it our love? Well, it's got to be our love, right? Because we're the ones that have to cast out fear. God doesn't need to cast out fear because he doesn't experience fear. So perfect love casts out fear. There's no fear in love. And if we look at 12 through 16, there's sort of there's a chain of what's happening here. We love one another. So Christians and human beings, we love one another. We display the love that God has shown us to other people, and if we do that, then he dwells in us and his love is perfected in us. And that, I believe, is talking about the relationship that we have. Imagine God has all of this love, and now he gets to use that love, and we get to be the beneficiaries of that love. So this is, if we love one another, then God's love is with us. We know that we dwell in him. We have seen, testify, whosoever shall confess Jesus is the Son of God. We've known and we believe the love that God has to us. God is love. He that dwells in love dwells in God, and God in him. So here and here we have the the statement that God dwells in us, and it's because we love one another. If we dwell in love, then we dwell in God and God in him. And that is the background and the explanation of verse 17. Herein, so it's in this relationship that we have with God. He's our Father, and his love is, and he's able to give us his love. It's able to be perfected in us so that we may have, and that's what that herein is talking about. We have that relationship with God. Now, it includes the love that we show other people as well. But there's also God's love involved in this. Now, in verse 17, in this, that's what herein means, in this, in the relationship that God has with us, our love is perfected, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. So up here, it talks about his love is perfected in us. And then here it says, in the relationship that we have with God, our love is made perfect. And what does that imply? Well, our love is made perfect so that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. Let's look up this word boldness here. KJV plus. We may have, oh, wants to do it over here. Let's see. Outspoken, frankness, bluntness, publicity, implication, assurance is probably close to the context here. Confidence. Thayer says freedom in speaking, unreservedness in speech, free and fearless confidence, cheerful courage, boldness, assurance. And this last one is not, that's not a meaning that we need to look at here. So it's not open speech, I would say, probably looking at the context, free and fearless confidence, cheerful courage, boldness, assurance. The day of judgment is going to be a time where we stand before the throne of God. And when we stand before the throne of God, either we will have fear because, well, something is wrong. We've lived a bad life. Maybe we haven't shown love like we need to. But if we're standing before the throne of God and we have fear, then we're in trouble. So it says here, our love is made perfect that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. We're going to be allowed into the presence of God. We're going to be allowed to speak. We're not going to be cast away, but we're going to be allowed to be there in the presence of God, and he's going to say, well done, good and faithful servant. This is that boldness that we have with him. And why? Well, because like he is, so are we in this world. So how are you supposed to have boldness in the day of judgment? How can you be reassured that things are going to go well? This is what you need to do. This is what we need to do. Include myself in that. Like he is, or as he is, same thing, so are we in this world. Speaking about love, God is love. God's love is perfected by extending that to us. We should be like God. So we should display the qualities of love that God has displayed to us, and we should reciprocate those to God, but we should also show those to other people. When we do that, and when we have this love, we're being like God. And you can only go and stand before God if you're like him. If you don't have love, if you are if you have wandered away from his commandments and the attitude that Christians should have toward one another, you can't you won't be able to stand before God. In James chapter 3, James talks about saying you love God, using your tongue and such. Tongue can no man tame, it's an unruly evil. Then this whole beginning of the chapter here is about the tongue. Look at how badly the tongue can get you in trouble. But in verses 9 and 10, therewith we bless God, even the Father, and therewith we curse men which are made after the similitude or the likeness of God. Out of the same mouth proceeds blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. How can you say, I love God, and not display love toward other people? How can you say, use your tongue and praise God and curse your brethren, curse men who are made in the likeness of God? No, the way we speak is very important. And we should speak as though we're talking about those who are made in the image of God. I wonder what kind of things we would say if every time we had to say it, we thought this person is made in the image of God. I wonder what kind of Facebook posts you would see. There's a lot of trash on Facebook, and people, I think because they're not face to face, they post things that I'd be very surprised if they said it in person. Well, we need to watch what we say. We need to watch the way we speak. Well, and you can't just fall back on the excuse, well, they deserved it, because James's reasoning here has nothing to do with whether or not they deserve it. Therewith we curse men which are made after the similitude of God. We're made in God's likeness. That person is made in God's likeness. If they are doing something to deserve something, well, that means that they need your help, not your curses. Let's go back to 1 John. We, though, if we can personify this love, God is love. God is love personified. If we can personify that, make love a part of us, then we're going to be like him. And when we stand before him, he's going to see himself in us. We will be allowed there. We will be welcome there instead of standing in front of someone who is ready to punish us. There is no fear, it says, in love, but perfect love. There's that perfect love again. Love is, see, herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness. Well, perfect love, it says, casts out fear. Because fear has torment. He that fears is not made perfect in love. So it talks about perfect love, but then it talks about us being perfected in love. And this boldness here that we have boldness in the day of judgment. Imagine going there on the day of judgment and being afraid. Imagine what would happen if you showed up before God and you had fear. Well, look what it says. Fear has torment. I hate to think about what kind of torment fear has. It's agonizing. If you're afraid, you're being tormented because of your fear, and God doesn't want that. In fact, when the Bible tells us to fear God, Jesus says, don't fear the one that can kill the body, but fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. I'll look that up so that you can see the scripture reference. Fear, soul, body, hell. Do not fear them which kill the body and are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. He's not telling us that we should be terrified of God, because in fact, in fact, there is no fear in love. So if we are acting the way we should, if we are treating people right, then we should have no fear of God. And instead of that torment of being terrified of God and his judgment, it's not here. We are able to cast that fear out because we are living a life of love. He that fears is not made perfect in love. There's so many ways that we can sabotage our relationship with God. God is always going to love us. He's already extended his love toward us, and he always has that hand extended waiting for us to respond to him. But it's our responsibility to reciprocate that love. And of course, John 15:14 tells us, if you love me, keep my commandments. Or is that 14:15? John 14:15. If you love me, keep my commandments. So we reciprocate the love that God has shown to us by obeying the things that he has commanded to us, or for us to do. One of them, and in context here in 1 John, is loving each other. So if we're doing that, we have this relationship with God. If we truly love God, then we will be acting in such a way that we don't have to be afraid of God. Of course, if you know you're doing wrong, there's that guilty conscience. We don't need to have that. We don't need to be afraid of the judgment day. We don't need to be afraid of death. I think if you look, let's see. Where does it say? Where did I read this? Lay lives. Hereby perceive we the love of God, last chapter, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Laying down your life for somebody. Why in the world would you do something like that? And how would you have the boldness to do that? That's a pretty big step, isn't it? You see somebody who needs you to give your life for them, and I'm not sure what the situation would be, but whatever it is, what would make you go beyond your, it's not beyond your comfort zone, it's beyond your instinct to preserve and to protect yourself? What would make you bypass that to help somebody else? A lot of parents would do that for children, or husbands and wives. You do it for your spouse or somebody that you love. But what about for the brethren? You have your immediate family, and a lot of people would sacrifice themselves for their family. But how do you extend that to not just your immediate family, but your whole Christian family? What kind of person would do that? Well, come over here. It is going to be someone who knows that he will be able to approach God with boldness, because God will welcome him instead of push him away. Somebody that has no fear, somebody who has cast out fear. This is the type of Christian that we want to be. All right, next week we'll look at 19, 20, and 21. We'll finish up with chapter 4, and then just one chapter left. So we've come a long way. Thank you for studying with me today. looking at those verses, thinking about those concepts, and I hope you have a blessed evening. Actually, I guess if it's on YouTube, you're watching this wherever. I hope you have a blessed time, and until next time.